visual effects should first and foremost always be at the service of the story. They shouldn't bring attention to themselves just for the sake of being a flashy effect.
We really set out to do something nobody's ever done for television before, which was every episode is completely different. One episode we were doing a water creature, the next episode we blew up Tokyo, the next episode we're flying across Paris. Every single week is different.
The visual style is always going to be rooted in what looks cool first, and then what is the reality of what's actually happening. You know, what would a guy flying actually look like? What would a woman who can turn anything into ice actually look like?
At first, yeah, I wanted to record everything that was on TV, and I wanted to make sure I saw everything that I did. But after the amount of shots that we do here, it's kind of difficult to catch everything. But yeah, I still watch Heroes. I love Heroes. Back when we were doing the pilot, I did the little spinning Earth logo for it, and it's still kind of cool to see, hey, you know, I did that logo for Heroes, you know.
When we're conceptualizing shots for Heroes, we go through 20 to 25 hours worth of meetings to plan the visual effects. How are we going to shoot the elements? What is it that the director wants to see, and how does he want to see it? And in order to get that image on the screen, how do we need to photograph it?
I'll demonstrate. You're Claire, you fire the bullet at me, a gun at me. Bang, right? Close, bullet freezes in the air. Camera goes around the bullet, right? Milo goes over his shoulder, takes the gun, right? He blinks out, bullet goes off camera.
Yeah, no problem.
And she unfreezes.
Yeah, we're basically pivoting on the imaginary bullet.
In the first episode of the season, the big 2-hour premiere, there was a shot where future Claire points a big old gun at Peter and pulls the trigger, and Peter freezes time and then walks around and disappears once he's safe from the bullet. So it sounds like an easy shot, but in fact, there's all kinds of things that had to be considered. For example, how do we create that camera pan, knowing that once we took one of them out, we would have to recreate the background in CG and replace it.
90% of the visual effects actually happen in camera, in terms of designing the shot, which involve usually the director and some of key crew people.
We work very closely with the special effects department, headed by Gary D'Amico, who's terrific, and his team brings all of the, the realistic effects from fire to rain and smoke.
It's just kind of like, okay, we're gonna hit him with the strobe light on set, so there's some reactive lighting on him. He holds out the hand and the guy goes flying back on a wire, so we remove the wire. And then it's just sort of like free reign to have fun and make up a cool effect. Oftentimes it's very straightforward, and sometimes it's just a green screen, environmental stuff like that. But then sometimes we get to have a lot of fun. We get to do a big, huge sequence like the Cold Snap here, which involved a lot of 3D. We had like 4 or 5 different artists working in just the 3D department.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of 3D raindrops, so we really had to have the 2D side put together first to get this long, continuous shot built in the first place.
One of the intriguing things about this scene is that what appears to be one single shot is really, in reality, 6 or 7 shots that we stitched together.
The ice has been a recurring theme all season, so it's just been iterations of that.
More often than not, the vast majority of the visual effects that Stargate create for Heroes, and the kind of visual effects that I personally like the most, is what I call invisible effects.
Even in certain shots that look like they're completely normal, you're just filming a neighborhood or something like that, more often than not, it's not all real. I mean, the only thing that's real in these shots are the small group of buildings in the foreground. Everything else is CG.
And one of the more interesting things I think we've done in season 3 is to see some new abilities emerge and to show the evolution of those abilities. When Hiro goes to the future in Tokyo and witnesses Ando blasting Hiro, presumably killing him with this unknown red electric power. So our challenge was to come up with something that we knew would eventually lead to what we saw in episode 1, but what are the origins of the look of that effect? And so we ended up with what we had on screen, which is kind of an out-of-control, sparky, almost like a firework going off in his hand unexpectedly.
What was that?
We're constantly looking for new ways to improve certain effects that have a believability issue in them, like flying.
We normally see our characters just, up and out of frame and boom, they're gone with a contrail left behind them. This is one of the first times we had the challenge of actually having a character fly right up into the camera lens.
What are you doing?
Everything was a matte painting. The train was repositioned. The track was different. And so matching all these elements to light together and work together, and the 3D, of course, incorporating in at the end too.
I think the best example of pushing the limits so far that we've achieved on Heroes is our big Tokyo destruction from the season premiere.
The earthquake in Tokyo when Hiro Goes to the Future was certainly one of the most challenging and ambitious scenes that we've done this year, and probably one of the more ambitious virtual sets that anyone's done on television in a long time.
You actually have to sit there and build each building, and texture it and light it, make sure it looks good, and then you just blow it apart.
I get his elements, and based on his animation, like for example, if the ground is exploding, then I use that, and I put different kinds of dusts and explosion and sparks and falling objects.
You're used to seeing a city being ripped apart like that in a big feature film. You know, you've got your big disaster movies and your summer blockbusters, and that's where you're used to seeing stuff. But we really looked at it and said, we don't want to just have some buildings fall down and some clouds obscure the lens. We want to see the street being ripped up. We want to see cars being thrown through the air.
The level of expectation is high, which make it challenging, and being challenging make it interesting. I mean, if it's something that you know exactly what you're going to do every day, it's going to get boring really, really fast. And Heroes is a lot of things, but Heroes is not boring.
The thing about Heroes that's so fantastic is that we all know on our end that if you're lucky, you get one show like Heroes in your entire career. That after that, you're going to be doing a lot of routine effects for television, but you get one Heroes. And so everybody on our team is all about giving their 1,000% effort into coming up with the coolest stuff, that when they're not working, that they're at home thinking of cool ideas. They're watching movies that inspire them, they're reading comic books that inspire them, and they come back together every week to work on a new episode to say, how do we do something that's never been done before? How do we make the audience go, wow, that's just unbelievable? And I think we've done a pretty good job of achieving that.